Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So carrying on with the quick vids for the G11P, we're now going to be looking at the throttle idle up settings, and this is a lifesaver for anybody into nitro or two-stroke petrol engines. Anybody that runs these type of vehicles will have come across this issue when it's cold and you're trying to start the engine, trying to hold a certain amount of throttle just to get them to open carb enough to start up, and then you're basically using one hand on your throttle to try and keep your engine at a higher idle, and you're trying to start your RC. So on this one we've got setting on off, so we can turn it on and you can see it'll then give you a set percent of throttle. So on this one we've got it added to 10%. The stock setting will let you brake and throttle. If you change the normal to lock, it'll let you increase throttle, but it won't move back on the brake, so all you can do is add throttle. Mainly I'd leave this on normal, because if your engine starts to rev, it's nice to be able to just hit the brake and stop it, but there is other options you've got on here. But as you see with this, you can just add whatever percent throttle you want, and then you've got both hands to start your nitro engine or your petrol engine. Other options we've got with this, so if we jump into assignment, if you go to the K buttons, so we can see throttle idle up. Also, if you go to your switches, you'll be able to come down to throttle idle up, so we can assign it to either of them. So I'll just go back to K button because it's easy to show you on video. So we can assign it to throttle idle up, and then if we jump out, press it, you can see as throttle idle up icon will be on, and you can see the throttle's increased. Press it, you get throttle idle up closed, and the icon goes off. Another option we've got, if you go in here to any of the trims or the variables, so if we go on to VR1 and you set that to throttle idle up, if we back out then, you can see when it's throttle idle up's on, we can then use this to increase or decrease the amount of throttle. So this might be a really useful dial to have that on. If it's really cold, you might need more throttle. As the engine slowly warms up, you can start to back this off. You can still drive the RC around, and then when it's fully warm, you can just hit the button and it's fully back to normal. And again, in the assignment menus, if we change this to as variable dial, you can reverse this. So if we go in and we reverse it, you can see that rolling forward decreases it, moving backwards increases. If we go in and change it back to normal, rolling forward then increases, rolling back decreases. So we can also change this and we can have it assigned to a trim. So if you'd rather have it assigned to a trim, say this little one up front, we can come in here and we can assign throttle idle up. That'll override as settings. If we back out, you've got the same, so pressing forward increases, backwards decreases. If we change it and reverse it, forward will decrease it, backwards will increase it. And then we can also change these steps if it's on a trim. You can see it'll jump in 20% increments all the way up to 50%, which is the limit, or down to 0. For me, mainly on the trims, I like it set to 1, especially if it's just something like this idle up, because it's nice just to be able to go in really small increments. But yeah, you can see what it does. If we put idle up on, we get the icon, we can see as throttle's increased, we can see by how much it's increased, and we can still throttle and brake. And then when the engine's warm, you can go back to your normal setting. And if we just check on the idle up, I can now show you, if we change it to lock, that'll lock out the brake function. So if I come back to here, you can see we got full brake function and throttle. If we turn as idle up on, we can control as idle up. We can throttle on, but braking has no effect whatsoever. Not one of the settings I'd use. I'm sure there is uses for it, but for me, I like the fact that we've got the option of it, but I prefer the brake to still be in use. But it does depend on your actual RC. If you find that you're just running it around in a small loop just to warm it up, and by braking it cuts the engine, one, you've got your carb set wrong. But if it is an issue for you, if you change that to lock, you can see you can increase the throttle, but pulling brake does nothing. But yeah, quite useful on petrols or nitro engines. There is other uses for it, but I find petrol and nitro, it's an absolute godsend to not have to have the transmitter in your hand when you want to idle up and just get your throttle increased so it holds at a certain percentage. Usually you only need a little just to help the engine while it's cold, and then you can just press it and turn it off. But hopefully you find that useful. Really nice that it's a feature on this G11P. And yeah, I think Flysky's done a cracking job of this transmitter to what I can see so far. There are a few bugs in this initial firmware. I got the transmitter before it's out, so it's not on final firmware. So there should be a firmware update. There's a bug where the timer start says powering off instead of timer start. And I think there's some other weirdness with the mixing that I've found, but I have fed that back to Flysky, so hopefully for release we should have a new firmware that fixes these issues. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining, or just like listening to my incessant ramblings. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.